8/18, 2013. Ahead, at first, a very, very interesting, fun, exciting, and sublime day earlier yesterday. I shall state briefly that I had found and gathered knowledge of these great, beautiful, pristine natural wilderness areas around here in the outskirts of the Garden of Eden wilderness, ones that I hadn't any knowledge of them until just yesterday. And I had journeyed out up a hill, braving myself in my car on one of these long, seemingly endless unpaved roads, hard, dirty, sandy, rock-filled, pothole-filled roads. I rode my car miles through one of these roads earlier yesterday. I was so nervous of doing this at first. I could have sworn I was going to get a flat tire. But then, over time, I was continuously driving on the roads, and I recognized that perhaps my car and its tires and so forth are capable and designed efficiently enough to handle this kind of vehicle's terrain. So I continued onward. I soon entered into true, remote, desolate wilderness. Pine trees and hills everywhere around me. Very, very few other cars came across me while I was out there. One particularly very strange incident that I had encountered while driving through this area was that of coming across and encountering these World War I dressed, uniformed persons, soldiers, literally firing all sorts of guns and rifles and so forth at each other off the side of the road, in the middle of the vast woods to the side. I couldn't tell for the life of me how they were not killing themselves doing this activity of theirs. I myself was frightened and had felt threatened that perhaps they would begin shooting at me. Was this some kind of combat situation by the United States military that was occurring as some kind of emergency during that incident? I would ask myself. But it couldn't be. How could it be? There would undoubtedly have been the road closed off to the public, and then police cars and so forth would have been intervened. And the uniforms that the soldiers were dressed in out there were understandably outdated by a century. They had to have been World War I uniforms, and the soldiers themselves was probably historical reenactors. Well, just prior to that incident, I had stopped my car up on the side of the road. I took and brought along this handy little voice recorder with me. And I had a book with me, and I then recited 2 passages from this book into the voice recorder, and am now soon at present time going to upload these recited passages while out in the middle of the remote wilderness online. Then, after the drive through the strange and mysterious soldier combat, the soldiers or the area itself, for whatever reason, at war with each other, I'd come across this valley and meadow clearing area out in the middle of this pristine desolation. There was an abandoned ranch house out in this meadow. The meadow valley itself was exceedingly expansive and the most beautiful sight, at least one of them, that I had ever seen in my entire life. When I were to get out from my car and at least simply present myself within that kind of pristine area, listen to the deafening, the beautiful and natural great outdoor silence, I walked just up to the meadow itself and stood and listened for some time. There were a plentiful amount of horses out in the meadow, just grazing and standing to themselves. This was the kind of area that Tor and I would seemingly forever were seemingly forever searching for, to find it and to utilize it for one of our earlier survivalist camping trips. If there were a creek nearby, there must have been some water source nearby in order to sustain the horses. The condition would have been perfect to eject out into that wilderness and live off the land until the end. I wish to go back to this area on your stay during the weekdays when there will have been even fewer cars and people around the area. When I do so, I'll bring along my camera this time and film this area and perhaps recite on film some passages of poetry. While standing out there in the meadow area within some more pine forested area, to my understanding, this area that I had visited earlier yesterday represents probably the most pristine and desolate area, a part of Southern California, that of which it is publicly accessible and essentially easy to obtain into it. There is by now not much need for me to explore the Gray's Peak and the various other trailheads around the more city-surrounded areas of the Garden of Eden wilderness anymore. For this place that I had found is perfect to do this. It is relatively accessible by car, this place that is around essentially all of northern Garden and Wilderness. There's a toll indeed on my car that where I had to drive it out to this area from time to time. For indeed the road is not paved and is full of rocks all throughout the various miles of its course. I couldn't imagine ever driving out and through this road during the winter season when there is to have been a snowstorm. In fact, I am almost entirely certain that the local city administration here will have closed the road off to the public where a snowstorm to have recently occurred around this specific area. Well, there are an abundant amount of areas that of which, while driving around these unpaved roads, off to the sides of the roads themselves, there's not any gating or fencing or wired posts, and someone can just simply stop the car off the side of the road, get out from it, and walk off plainly and clearly into the desolate wilderness, off from the sides of the roads. I understand that this city administration perhaps actually desires and intends the travelers through these roads to take advantage and enjoy the nature and the woods and so forth that are out here and available to use them everywhere from time to time. These areas are perfect to utilize for dispersed, pure nature camping. August 18, 2013. Eight 2013. I'll make him a genius, and I'll put him in a world of disposables, where genius is never going to be recognized or understood by them. They'll chant him, "Destroy the wise man! Destroy the wise man!" Am I not the greatest? I couldn't care any less about what becomes of him. He is but a simple material to me. Ha ha! Now praise me. Here, praise me, my excellency, my greatness. God dethroned, his disease forever removed from the life experience. Satan beheaded, dismembered, eviscerated, forever burnt to ashes. The liberals forever in chains and silence from the life experience. Revoked eternally of statewide privilege. The state, the law itself, for the example of the allied substances set upon, based upon, and founded upon, foremost primarily the words, the principles of my first two books. Otherwise, sanity, calmness, peacefulness, legitimate happiness at last, if not through this means alone, will that never to have been obtained in relativity to the life experience of the self-substance. August 20, 2013. 8/20/2013, 2. I was at the Lake Causeway this morning, parked there in my car, eating some food, watching the sunrise, and observing the birds around the area. I may wish to take the ski lift sooner or later. I am wishing to rent a kayak sometime sooner or later and to take it out and paddle it across the lake. That would be quite pleasurable to do. I was up in northern Garden and Wilderness earlier this Lord's Day and Saga's Day too, in a very desolate and undeveloped place area called Holcomb Valley. The entire length of roads up there are dirt and rock filled and unpaved. It was quite an adventure to do this, and I had made a video of the area that is now online if anybody at all wishes to see it sometime. I'm talking a little more with the roommates here by now, though I'm continuously suffering in this exceedingly sharp grade of painfulness almost always by now. There's nobody else in person to speak to, or to befriend, or to obtain human social support, warmth, or guidance, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, as it has essentially been this way a part of my life for many, many unnecessary amount of years by now. Negative human noise has been so habitually characteristic and typically endlessly experienced by me by now, without any break from it, or ever letting up from it. The slightest of negative noise from mankind is physical abuse to me. To my senses, I get no break from this abuse. I have not had a property to myself still as of yet. Throughout my entire life experience, even still yet, I'm having lived without this bare necessity to my sanity. It is very evident and understandable that I'm boiling with wrath and hatred against mankind by now. Get away from me! I say to them! I pleaded to the Creator over and over again. He is most likely never going to react or reply mercifully to me in regard to this life struggling demand. The internet connection here at this place is perpetually unreliable, routinely disconnects, and it likewise is slow of speed. I cannot even get my own connection here in my room. I called the communications office this morning, and they had told me only one account per household, one internet connection per household. I was in complete despair because of this. I'm always in complete despair because of everything attributable and acquired in reactivity to my life experience. There is nobody a part of me closely or deeply in person. And likewise, over the course of almost 2 years duration by now, there has been essentially nobody online in any real and true sense of recognition or understanding or knowledge of me, neither of anything to do with me. From essentially anybody online at all whatsoever, altogether likewise. The result of this is a recognition or feeling a part of me that I have been completely shunned by the planet altogether, and that I'm continuously being done so, completely shunned. But American mankind, and that severe degenerative effects a part of me are taking shape and coming into precedence because of them. Their despicable and completely shameful reactivity to my life situation. My hatred for other mankind at this point is essentially complete and total. I'm at odds with the entire morality system, structure, and societal identification of Western civilization. I've always been against them, though by now I'm openly and legitimately against them. And I'm capable to refute them everywhere that they are manifest, though they have no knowledge from me. And with each and every incident with them, I'm inevitably to return to square one with them and must start from scratch in re-educating them one step after another, and overcoming them of their unrecognized universal mankind negativity. These terrible, poor, and bad life negators. These Christians, these liberals, these fools. There's no masterful morality anima predicated to my understanding contemplation. There never has been one right and worthy anima apart of my understanding contemplation. There are only these liberal, zeroed out deadites, fools and nobodies predicated in volatile and traitorous reactivity to my understanding and so forth. There is only the enemy itself for the far other side of the battlefield, with the sword drawn against my side, perpetually against me. And I'm consistently and perpetually without distraction from this, without interruption from them, or without companionship against a slave morality monstrously villainous anima, that in itself is the only one anima indoctrinated into my self-reflection, self-consciousness through the entirety of my early life experiences altogether. At the same time, the Creator does not manifest or formalize the sufficient righteous ally and friendly companion a part of my material association with mankind. There's everything wrong and foul and incorrect upon this civilization itself. The badness of this life situation is not accountable to my own behavior or to my own identity. The other universal negative human substances are fully responsible for this badness of the life experience. The Creator is behind the manifestation of these other universal negative human substances. This is the perfect trap against me. I will create a genius, he says, in a world of disposables, where he will never be recognized or understood by them, and then I shall burn him out eternally afterward, his physical termination. The Creator must be overcome and dethroned, and this done finally so and at last, somehow to legitimately achieve this victory. August 20, 2013. (8/22/2013). It seems that I have been moving my body around physically and naturally more and more like an ancient Greek or Roman hero with each and every passing day. The public threshold and domain is getting to see to their hapless bewilderment the stately and very finely nerved heroic Heracles or Mars, a Roman imperial centurion, and so forth, derived almost completely from Athenian sculpture in the actual physical threshold. Because I'm unaware until only as of lately, and over the course of time, further and further inevitable refinement into this rare top of the hierarchy, heroic, warrior, noble, aristocratic physique and metaphysique. The reactivity from them is not observed or tended to by me, though if so, I sense essentially universal affirmative sentiment from them. August 22, 2013. (8/23, 2013). So difficult to understand everything. Becoming more and more baffled by the complexity, the grandiosity of everything a part of this life experience. Indeed, I was wrong. I was incorrect earlier. Indeed, the Creator is far more grandiose, great, magnanimous, complicated, incomprehensible, and so forth than I had earlier proposed him fallaciously to be. I've been reading the Bible determinedly to do so from start to finish, and if and when finished, then to reread the entire book over again, just as Embla had asserted Ask to have done so earlier during his younger years. I have so far made my way up to the 30th chapter of Exodus, the second book of Moses. I cannot put what I'm reading into words. Have been undergoing these most mystical and religious experiences. Ultimately, by no means could this entire book altogether, his very book, his only and his favorite book for me to read of it, could the contents and so forth inside and a part of the book itself altogether have been conceived or manifest by human imagination alone. No, the proposition would be a complete absurdity and impossibility. The ritual sections of the middle part of Exodus, the elaborate and ornate symbolism attributable to essentially each and every letter, to each and every compound term, each and every phrase and termed abstraction, the most intimate and incomprehensible setting of the Creator's vision of his temple defined and demonstrated to Moses while he was up on the Mount of Sinai. I had it ever within me, within my volition alone, in order to will these thoughts or abstractions as though inadvertently or passively. That itself is an impossibility. Thunder and lightning, his revelation, his actual physical revelation to Moses and so forth on that mountain. I could not abstain from these severe tears and shivering and cowering in fear because of him, feeling to myself that indeed that certain passage from that book was by far the most powerful passage of all in any literature that I had ever read. I'm at the center of all of this, though by no means does my volition conceive of everything outside of me as though through passive, subconscious effects or consequences of my volition. No, I could not have conceived or manifested these recent precedent experiences, these contents and passages apart from the specific book's literature. August 23, 2013. 8/24, 2013. Behold, look, see, him and I, we two, the both of us, all of us, together with him. We are inside. The threshold, it is damp, moist, warm, dark. He is pulsating, aging. He is moving already. Look at him. He's the closest, most personal, most intimate, most beautiful creation. We will not reflect here further. Move on from this moment. Age him. I see him. I see him too. We like him. He's beautiful to us, as you say of him. Well, where is he, exactly? He is mine. His movement, where is this? What thought sources from this? I shall be there for him. Yes. Who else shall there be for him? Not now. Do not concern of this right now. Heart pulsating. Heart enlarging. Form him further, this creation of mine. I want him to be like this. He must see himself, yes. I shall give him 2 eyes to see. He has his face, he has his head. Look, he shall stand this face. His head is above all of him. His face, his head, what is this? Give him a mass of flesh and of bone, bone for sturdiness and for stability. He is pulsating. I make him pulsate. This is his movement. What more is this pulsating? He has this mass of flesh and of bone. I form him as to my liking of him, as to my image of him. I will form him this way, grow him, face, head, countenance. Oh yes, right eye, left eye, here and here, and the beauty of his face in front of him. Hear us, O creation. Oh yes, ear and ear, right and left, here and here, gape and open around, reach out and allow it to us, to hear us. What is this? I give him this mouth, here in and on his face. Ah, lips, they should be wet, moist, they should be dry at times. He may lick his lips with water to moisten them again. Inside his mouth, oh yes, tongue here, palate here, teeth, these come later. How many of them? My number I give them. Now, behind this mouth shall be this opening, down to his lower body. Food I shall give him, and drink, both to nourish him and to sustain him. You create him not forever, Creator. No, not his form here. His neck, just behind, his neck, just beneath his head, his torso, his two shoulders, one right here, the other right there, his arms, his hands, his fingers, here and here and here. We like what we see you're doing, Creator. We do not understand all this reasoning. All this knowledge is yours. Ours, not yet. His chest, his heart, the essence of his form is mine, of his form. Guard everything here with much bone protection. Even more so here with much bone protection to his head. Ah yes, his brain shall be here, his brain shall be there. Do not fall from my grasp. Never fall from my grasp. Always return to me. Always return to me. This center of his torso. Pain will be much to endure where he struck here badly. Stomach, liver, kidneys, bladder here, colon, intestines here, and so on and so forth. Lower limbs, legs, feet, toes. Balance him, walk him, move him. 5 toes on this foot, 5 toes on the other. 2 big toes on this foot here, on this foot the other. Purpose, purpose, purpose. Reason, reason, reason. Phallus indeed, with his 2 testicles beneath him. Onward, onward, onward. Movements, movements, movements. We like what we see you're doing, Creator. We like this creation of yours. We like this creation. We like this. Oh, we like this. Oh, we like this. Oh. Pain, pain, pain. Such pain, misery, agony, malice. Oh, bright brilliance, shining, bright brilliance. Light, light, light. Voice, Adam, voice. Use the voice, Adam. Scream for me. Scream for me. Scream. 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 You do not like this, do you, my love? You do not like this. You're afraid. You're in fear. You're in pain. Oh, Adam, just you are in pain. As Elaine. See, she is in pain. Look at her, Adam. She is yours. She is Elaine. She's going to be... She is yours. She is your wife. She is going to be your wife. Oh, the pain, Adam. It hurts. It hurts. You hurt, don't you? Oh, do believe me, Adam. I am your creator. I am your father. Love me, Adam. Worship me. Always love me. Praise me. You will love me. And I will reward you. Cut this from him. Sever him from her. Move him about over here. Clean him up. Dress him up. Oh, he is good to you, isn't he? He is satisfied, isn't he? Oh, Adam. Arms here. In your arms. Hold him. Adam. 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 Look at me. Look up at me. I am your wife. I am your wife. I will always be your wife. From this point onward, always. I'm given this life history of my own. I've experienced this life history before you. He creates me here while at this age, while in this form of my own to you. I love you, Adam. I will love you. I will serve for you. I will fight for you. I will protect you. You were born, Adam. Your life here has just begun. There will be everything in the future to come for you, to be experienced for you and by you. Just wait and see for all of this, that what is to come. Isn't that so? Husband. Adam, come to me, my child, my very first, my very child, my first child, my child, my husband. Look at me, look up at me, in my arms, I hold you to me. I'm given this life history too of my own, in this form of my own. I am here, your husband, from this point in time onward, always. Look, I am your creator. You will know this from me. You will know so much from me in time enough to come. I will hold you here for now. I keep you here for now. In this form of mine, I am your real, true God. Husband, behind me, behind this very form of mine, you will know in time enough to come. You will work for me. I am your real, true God. Behind me, behind this very form of mine, you will know in time enough to come. You will work for me. You must work for me. You will understand my purpose, my reason, my real, true meaning. Soon enough, you will know me, my real, true meaning. Rest now. Sun. Beautiful, beautiful sun. Created. Close those beautiful eyes of yours further. Sleep away with me. In your dreams, you shall begin to understand for the first time this reason of mine, this purpose, this meaning of mine, for everything that will come to be experienced by you, for me. Eight, 24, 20 to 13, too. We mentioned my own opera Siegfried. Your own, I say, represents the Valkyrie, doesn't it? You think with you as Brunhilde, does Rheingold as our preconception and arrival of our archetypes? Gute Dämmerung, our opera, your opera in my opera, indeed. Put the ring, the life experience, the madness, the folly, the torment, the creation itself, a part of everything, to rest. Enough of this. This great man that I am, indeed, and how could I ever just simply go to waste, or become transformed into nothing or forgotten about, this man that I am? No, you preserve me, you're ever present to me. Oh, thank you times 1,000-fold for this, no, for everything about you. I've written these words earlier today. I was so deeply moved by these words. I must send these words to you. You must be informed of this writing that I've done. I truly need recognition for this work. I was in such pain and torment earlier today. I could not for the life of me understand what it is that the Creator wishes me to do with myself, to work for Him, to do His bidding for Him. The work opportunities here are out of the question. The malevolence down below is everywhere predicated to such a threshold, especially so essentially everywhere predicated to Southwest California, and ever the more where I want to obtain a work opportunity that is influenced by some time spent college education and degree. College itself is out of the question. I wish to study only perhaps music, or if not, then philosophy, though the music departments in the colleges or universities are forever predicated again here to the malevolence down below, for whatever good reasoning that I cannot understand of this. In the philosophy departments, I would have preferred not to be identifiable to any of them, particularly so to any of the students a part of such threshold. Never have I found another human substance of interest or identification to me that of which predicated to academic studying of philosophy. There are no genuine philosophers that are merely academics. I says that all the classrooms of these philosophy university students are filled merely with academics. What is the chance of finding a solitary philosopher or part of one otherwise? And if the person is not found during my semesters there, then what sufferable desolation and further desolation it is for me. The work threshold is forever a question without resolve to me. The Creator himself does not have a sufficient reply or recommendation to me where to turn in the work threshold in order to fulfill his demand of my bidding to him. My intellect is so beautiful in its pristine form that it is simply good for nothing, but it cannot utilize itself for anything practical or utilitarian. For my intellect is so fine and tremendous, so I remain unemployed by practical or utilitarian work until the end of this life. I'm almost absolutely certain of this, but then I remain otherwise idle from preoccupation. For my remaining potential activities, intellectual, metaphysical, possibly, though most probably not, artistic and musical activities, by now have essentially all but exhausted themselves from further productivity, so that I need something to do to occupy myself away from that most dreaded, terrible, cursed Satan, that malevolence down below. For indeed, an idle soul is such a devil's playhouse, and I am the center of this life experience. How could Satan not tempt himself from tormenting me, almost eternally and perpetually, while here a part of this life experience itself? Though every other animate, inanimate substance is purposed in relativity to my own specific soul, person, identity, these other animate, inanimate substances themselves are altogether acted upon, always through reactivity of me, by the volition of the transcendental immaterial substances, such as that of the Creator himself and that of the down below. There are not many other transcendental substances that operate upon the other material substances here. The reactivity of the other material substances, this following proposition is very strange. I will act through such and such a means, some specific activation of my volition, and then the other human substance called into question may actually react with the proclaimed proposition, that of which this proclaimed proposition itself may very well, no matter how trivial or superfluous it appears to me to be a premonition of some long-off and far-away activity or state of condition that I may actually come myself into being as such over the course of much endured time later on in the future. As well, the reacted proposition from the other substance may, on the other hand, be a reminiscence of some very long ago, distant, and far away activity or state of condition that I may actually have been some very many years ago, earlier in time's duration. Just a simple proclaimed proposition from them. The Creator is acting through them, these others, through you too as well. I'm sensing very strong qualities from the Creator through your human substantiation that do not reason that I do not love this as a part of you. No, know this, that I love you ever the more, that you know me, Creator, through this darling Frigg's volition, and you know me through the external threshold. You know my own thoughts and so forth through the external threshold, not through the internal threshold, by essentially no other means anymore by now. How could you have desolated me so completely from them, from any others, while here a part of this life experience? You, of course, sense and know my thoughts and sentiments through that of my own soul and volition and consciousness and internal threshold. The down below senses and knows my state of condition through such means as well. Likewise, both you and the down below predicate every manifest animate, inanimate, material substance to both you and that other down below, even the avian substances that manifest nearby my window from time to time. They manifest, and they somehow sense and know my state of condition by perceiving into, observing into my actual position and location of my own actual senses. Any material substance that is manifest for the time being is capable to do this. This is one of the means that which you check up on me and inspects my state of condition and so forth over the course of time. I may merely manifest the abstract notion of Chenna. Then Chenna itself, the material substances, a part of this actual physical nation, is conscious and observing my own actual state of condition, ultimately through my own actual position and location of my own actual senses. I imagine the abstract notion of bird. Some bird is formalized into my consciousness. This bird itself, if it is realistically practical to the actual physical threshold, then some bird or birds out about there, practical to the actual physical threshold, are then manifest and are consciousness and observational of my own precedent state of conditioned volition. Even so, they may appear as premonitions somehow, as reminiscence, their reactivity, whatever it is to be, as some of the time premonition or reminiscence, to that of my own imaginative volition. I ask myself then, do I really, truly, ultimately have independence of my own volition? If I do have it, then somehow, What indeed have I become of myself by this point in time? Though if I do not, and I cannot decide at all whether I do or do not have it, then if I do not, my every activity and movement and so forth has its own immediately antecedent causation. That the activity and movement and so forth of the present movement is its own resolution from the prior causation. And again, at the same time, it is its own specific formalized causation, then to succeed to the next resolution, then to the next, and so on and so forth, which I sense that somehow this position of understanding is ultimately correct. For how could this be not correct and otherwise? Especially so where the deepest recognition of the nature of the life experience to have been observed. Each and every time it is confirmed again and again by me that each and every activity and movement and so forth has its own antecedent causation, proceeding to the precedent resolution, and then it itself its own causation, then proceeding to the subsequent resolution, and so on and so forth. If such is the case, then I am truly scripted. This life experience altogether is truly scripted. No matter what happens to me, I am helpless to proceed otherwise. Life experience altogether is helpless to proceed otherwise. Blame, responsibility, choice, fault, mistake, and so forth. All of these terms and abstractions called into question are as a part of the script, as a part of the volition, ultimately that of the creator. Try to affirm of him, of course, though what takes occurrence, everything is as it is going to be, and so forth. Laziness and slothfulness, shrugging off the script, this activity itself must be a part of the script. Excessive passivity, passion, mistake, and punishment, this itself as a part of the script, too. Then the sense of passion, of sentiment, the recognition that material substances and experiences are taking occurrence before the observation and understanding of the self-substance. This itself, as I have said above, I just cannot conclude one direction or another upon this subject matter. The subject matter is altogether too incomprehensible. It is as though the life situation or condition itself can actually vacillate from independent volition to determine its scriptedness. How in this life experience can this be done to me, to us? I respect him, the creator. I do. Know this of me. I love him immeasurably. That book of yours, creator, that book of yours is the most incomprehensible, the most beautiful of all books. I must do your bidding. You must tell me through what means I can serve you in order to please you. I do not serve you for my own self-preservation, for fear of you burning me eternally afterward. How could you ever do so otherwise to me? But for my love of you, so immeasurably, such complexity and incomprehensibility. I was wrong in my judgment of you, creator. I knew that I could not have been right about my earlier negative judgments of you. I say my words with sincerity about you, here, right now. What more do you want from me? I must do your bidding. I must reap what I will forever afterward this moment in time. So, do you hear my prayers affirmatively? You must cool my temperament, my own wrath. I'm so much like you, creator. Though I could not possibly be your derivation. How could I be as such? Is this proposition somehow at all truthful to affirm? Somehow I just sense this proposition affirmatively. About you and about me. About the both of us. Do not burn me because of this. Do not burn me at all, creator. Please do not do so to me. Ultimately, the writing that I had inserted earlier, for at least some recognition from just one other soul a part of this life experience. I sensed earlier, just before setting up to do that writing, that I would, if I must do his bidding to please him, if at all to cool his wrath against me, that I must preoccupy myself with writing further and elaborating further upon the specific writing, that I would write this quasi-autobiography, that of my own self, and write it in such a fashion that it would include and be thematically oriented to the direction of which all this metaphysical knowledge a part of me has been obtained so far through this life experience. That to elaborate upon this writing from earlier today, further and further over the course of time, that this could perhaps very well be that preoccupation that he and I are otherwise searching everywhere for me to manifest, to preoccupy myself with work, and then to get that dreaded, terrible, cursed devil off of me, away from me, and ultimately then the creator's inevitable wrath to me would then become further cooled and contained from against me otherwise. How many days would this work of writing account for? How many different kinds of experiences during the biography of this life experience of the subject, me, would be accounted for. The possibilities with this work may be seemingly endless, though if only I could though if only I can acquire that motivation to further elaborate upon this proposed task and occupation. Such an ambitious and timely work that this could end up to be. August 24, 2013. Eight 25, 2013. The Western world is just like Sodom. The majority of Westerners are in or are going to be in hell. Plain and simple. This itself is cathartic, calming, understandable, and so on and so forth. The Westerners will protest against truthhood until the very end. The down below is everywhere and inextricably a part of them. I speak no further as analytic here right now. Few souls make it into heaven to begin with. The paradise is clearly not at all attributable to mass animate substance noise or needless commotional material cause activity, as otherwise everywhere found down here, a part of Western civilization. Were a part of the paradise there to be mass animate congregation, then such mass animate congregation is of course clearly desirable to affirm. It is always intelligently acted upon by the particular animate substances, a part of the occasional or specifically eternally situated located congregation. Wine, women, and song, what attributable to the essential nature of Western civilization itself is ultimately divergent from otherwise for this completely malevolent down-below principle. The 21st century, subsequent third millennium era epoch of Western civilization is the last final cause era epoch of Western civilization itself altogether. The religious piety of the Middle Ages has by its own means led up to this decadence and closure. I sense that the women and song attributes of that aforementioned down-below principle were clearly not at all recognized for what malevolence that they would later bring to us here. That they were not at all during that earlier general era epoch put appropriately into their right and subordinated place. Clearly instrumental music itself is impermissible to affirm altogether. Clearly loud and unmarried, uncovered, and so forth women are impermissible to affirm altogether likewise. These abstractions are forever still haram to affirm indeed. August 25, 2013. 8/25/2013 too. My day today was largely spent out of the door. My day was a prolonged experience of religious intensity. I had taken my copy of the Bible with me and headed out on Van Dusen Canyon Road, the unpaved, very rocky dirt road that I mentioned just about some time earlier ago. I had driven the car quite far into this. I may have been just before the Pacific Crest Trail area earlier today. I had parked the car and had rested at the spot out in the middle of this beautiful, pristine nature woodland area. I was rather nervous at first to simply idle out there in the area, particularly so of bears or of cougars, though then the birds chirping about and so forth had kept me increased with good spirits. Soon enough then I was feeling confident and courageous again. I thought to myself that I was in my car. How could a bear, were it to attack me out there, get much further than slashing and biting at the car itself before I would ignite the engine and drive off away from it, were it to have occurred? I rested at first, pulled back the seat, and at last, silence. I was in silence. The first spot that had parked out there earlier today, believe it, there were gunshots resounding repetitively, even so out in that beautiful and uncultivated, desolated, pristine area. Though I had then started the engine and driven further up the road, and I was then out of the sounding area of the gunshots, essentially during the entire time afterward. The qualities of this road itself that I was on are indeed very under maintenance and essentially paved once and then left to itself and as though forgotten about by the city administration. There are large rocks on this road, essentially all throughout its course, There are these unbalanced areas with crevices, a part of them that could perhaps even halt or trap the car were the driver not careful enough to avoid them. I spotted two sufficient-sized boulders that had fallen almost right into the middle of the road itself, were merely laying there that would easily crash the car at a fast speed. Though I have become over time far more confident with the sturdiness and stability of my car and its tires, even so on this specific road. Indeed, I'm becoming by now very good, I think, at riding over these kinds of roads. They're so much fun to drive on them. Over time, during the drive through these country roads out there, there develops a sense of intimacy and personability, a part of them, as though it were a special experience to drive on and through them. Well, anyway, after I had rested, I had then read the remaining 10 chapters of Exodus. I had finished Exodus and now onto the book of Leviticus. Oh, I cannot explain my experiences in sufficient words. While I was out there earlier today, while reading this book of his, and afterward I was ready to leave, and then I had stepped out of the car, and it was as though the Creator was saying to me, "Come, walk with me, Odin. Spend some time with me." No. Moments. "Come, walk with me, Adam. Come, walk with me, Adam. Spend some time with me." The wind was blowing out there, and it would blow by the Creator's volition. During these beautiful moments when reading certain possibly favorite passages of his, a part of the book, he may become wrathful to me so very easily. I was so very afraid. I could not understand his desired practical ethics that he wishes me to do and to perform. I'd become like an infantile child while I was with him. I felt and thought as though to him, "I'm so afraid of you. I do not know how to act at all without you. That ultimately I'm lost without you, Creator. I'm hopeless without you." I ventured further up the road away from my car. I heard from him, sensed from him that this is your occupation, Adam. Read my book. Come out here and commune with me 6 days for every week. You understand, from Lord's Day to Saga's Day. I then felt utter terror when I had sensed what would have become of me after I would have finished reading the entirety of the Bible. Then I understood, no, Adam, you will be a changed man by then, much improved man. Do not despair from this experience. I was in heavy tears while during these moments out there with him. I had afterward ultimately driven into town here and picked up some food. Cantina Bowl, they call it. This is fast food restaurant. It is with many ingredients to this dish, primarily so that of lettuce greens with avocado dressing, a bed of rice, some beans, and corn with tomatoes and onions. I think there were a part of it. Some ranch dressing as well, I think there was. With a cup of water I had along with it. I driven back home and ate at my place. Quite unfortunately, I think, that was a disappointment to me. I could have driven to the causeway between the lake and parked there, and communed further with my meal in nature with him. A vast bed of cold, deep blue water beside me during then would have been so fitting for us, I think. The Creator, I sense, was to have been in quite true enjoyment during the conceptions and manifestations of his life experiences, food items. Then I recognized he had enjoyed conceiving and manifesting all this life experience altogether. Every attribute and category of the life experience was splendor to him, the most joy to him to create all this everything. He is unsurpassable. He is suffering from the most boundless, incomprehensible madness. He is capable of even the most limitless excessiveness, whether of benevolence or malevolence. He has created all this life experience is his joy, in his splendor. The down below is forever a part of this life experience. This devil itself is almost everywhere a part of the West. The Western world is just like Sodom, indeed. Though I have many very great things in store for you, Adam, I do believe that this proclamation of his is becoming ever the more recognizable and realizable to me by this point in time. I cannot be a bloodless machine. He senses this relativity to me from time to time, though I sense he is acting effortlessly to change this potentially manifest soul physique from a part of me. This is being ever the further overcome for me by now. August 25, 2013. 8/26, 2013. I sense and understand ever further this assertion. Christianity is heresy, plain and simple. Jesus Christus preaches to the male physique to effeminize himself. This experience itself, effeminate activity and sentiment of the male physique, clearly provokes the creator's wrathfulness against the specific substance when the effeminate activity sentiment itself is to become manifest a part of the specified substance. The male physique must obtain identification with the creator of the creator. Jesus Christus preaches against essentially every quality imaginable predicate to the creator himself. Christianity is heresy. I since understand ever further this assertion. There is no transcendental independent malevolence down below. That is, such abstraction is not independent from the volition of the Creator himself. Praise and blessing forever be upon him. The malevolence of the various other animate substances, the experiences a part of the self-substance in relativity to them, these other malevolent animate, inanimate substances, incidences of them, are in fact betrayal and abandonment of the volition of the Creator, in relativity to the self-substance. The other malevolent substance then called into question is manifest particularly specifically so, itself as betrayal and abandonment and so forth, a part of the volition of the Creator, in relativity to the self-substance. Hurry onward, Odin. Be careful, be calm, be reasonable, do not provoke my wrathfulness. I will destroy you completely. I cannot help myself from doing this, were you at all to disobey my word. I sense and understand ever further this assertion. Material substances are clearly desirable to affirm themselves rightly, particularly affirmatively, particularly negatively. Do not negate the material substances or ever turn away from them. The Creator, praise and blessing be upon him, will doubtlessly, ultimately, and completely destroy the substance that is further and further responsible for this specific activity. Praise, obtain identification with the Creator of the Creator. The antecedent malevolent formalized substances will doubtlessly eliminate, terminate their presence ever further over the course of time, ultimately completely so. Assuredly he obtains his methods to do this for the substance called into question. August 26, 2013. Eight 27/2013. Could the Christus himself have been burned eternally by the Creator? No resolution to this question for the other human substances will be at all tolerated right now. The Creator himself is the most limitless and infinitely unsurpassable genius and mad man. Mankind must praise and bless the Creator. He is self-affirmative. He negates of what does not obtain identification with him, of him, plain and simple. Jesus Christus is Creator's foremost primary heretic. The qualities that Jesus Christus preaches to formalize mankind into do not obtain identification with the Creator, of the Creator himself, at all whatsoever. The qualities that mankind will then formalize himself into obtain instead diametrical opposition to the identification with the Creator, of the Creator. Absolutely so, that of which does not praise him or satisfy him at all, or such other qualitative terms and so forth attributable to his affirmativeness. August 27, 2013. 8/27/2013. 2. The Creator's wrathfulness must be affirmed. The self-substance rejoices ever in knowledge and identification with him when the Creator is wrathful to the self-substance. Adam. It is I, the Creator. Objects exist simultaneously in both worlds with similar shapes. If the form of a thing changes, it will affect the shape of its twin in the other world. Legend of Zelda, a link to the past, a formal cause video game attributable to the volition of the Creator himself, far earlier in time's duration. Kinski. Final moral lesson to the self-substance. Kinski represents an almost formal cause actualized derivation of the concealed self-archetype. Subconscious reflection of the self-substance. The almost formal cause attributes and qualities of the self-substance himself formalized and manifest through Klaus Kinski's earlier antecedent manifestation. The self-substance then rejoices lovingly and admirably in knowledge and identification with Kinski. Kinski himself is almost formally identifiable to the self-substance archetype. The wrath of God, indeed, is manifest through Klaus Kinski's substantiation. I identify with him, Klaus Kinski. I then identify ever further affirmatively with the wrath of God, with the unsurpassable genius, madness, the limitless, infinite grandiosity of the Creator. At the same time, simultaneously, Kinski, final moral lesson to the self-substance. August 27, 2013. August 27, 2013. 3. 1 equals 1 gives. Moments. 1 equals Creator himself. Creator himself is present. 2 equals self-substance. 3 equals benevolence, mercilessness to the self-substance from Creator. 4 equals coldness, unaffectionate indifference to the self-substance from Creator. 5 equals wrathfulness, severity to the self-substance from Creator. 6 equals burn the self-substance. 7 equals O great wonder, O great mystery, to the self-substance from Creator. 8 equals warmness, affectionate restfulness to the self-substance from Creator. 9 equals love, universality, admiration, adoration to the self-substance from Creator. 8 equals nothingness. Nothing is here. Creator himself is not present here. The numeration integer itself, 123, equals Creator himself is present. The self-substance. I am to the self-substance as attributable to benevolence, mercilessness to the self-substance from Creator. The numeration integer itself, 128, equals singular numeration integer definitions as enlisted above as attributable to 1, then 2. Then, subsequently, the definition as attributable to 8 proceeds after 2 and from 2 that was after 1. 8 equals I am warm, affectionate, restful to him, to the self-substance from Creator. Compound compositions of numerations integers themselves then called into question are understandable, identifiable, and so forth to the dialectic with the self-substance and Creator's volition, as understandable, identifiable, and so forth through the method of practice as demonstrated above. Dialectic with the self-substance and Creator's volition. Coloration as attributable to the passivity category. Compound compositions of coloration as a part of the various other substances then called into question, then add the compound compositional definitions as attributable to the singular coloration definitions as enlisted subsequently below. The dialectic is strongly attributable, understandable, identifiable to the self-substance from Creator, particularly so during automobile driving activity and a part of the other manifest passing and so forth automobiles themselves. The coloration of the other manifest passing and so forth automobiles as attributable to the dialectic with the self-substance and Creator's volition. Geometrical shape, geometrical figuration, size and mass and so forth as attributable to the quality category is not enlisted below for the time being. Grade of motion and so forth as attributable to the activity category is not enlisted below for the time being. So and so on and so forth. Whiteness equals Creator himself. Creator himself is present. Grayness equals companionship to the self-substance from Creator. Blackness equals malevolence, wickedness, wrathfulness, betrayal, abandonment to the self-substance from Creator. Blueness equals tearfulness, sorrowfulness, affectionateness, pitifulness, and so forth to the self-substance from creator. Redness equals wrathfulness, severity, madness to the self-substance from creator. Also, aforementioned qualities as attributable to the self-substance archetype himself. Yellowness equals cheerfulness, joyfulness, gaiety, attributable to the self-substance from creator. Greenness equals essential attribution to the self-substance archetype. Also, qualities attributable to Kabbalistic definition of greenness are permissible to affirm. Orangeness equals cheerfulness, joyfulness, gaiety, attributable to the self-substance from creator, though more accidental, subordinate, more excessive, disordered, irrational than aforementioned qualities as attributable to yellowness. Purpleness equals love, universality, admiration, adoration to the self-substance from creator. Brownness equals ground, soil, earthiness, final cause, manifestation, digestive system, essential malevolence, wickedness, betrayal, abandonment to the self-substance from creator. Though not wrathfulness, this quality that is instead attributable to blackness. August 27, 2013. August 27, 2013. 4. Could the subsequent proposition hold at all affirmativeness of validity? He is me. The self-substance is me, the creator, in an actual physical form. I thought and planned tirelessly upon all of this. The self-substance is me, and he is going to return to me, the creator, in the end. The creativity of the life experience, this is my purpose, to actualize and to conceive and manifest myself in an actual physical form. August 27, 2013. August 27, 2013. 5. Could the subsequent proposition hold at all affirmativeness of validity? I prepare him, my self-substance, to have subsequently become the successor regent to my throne, to my creatorship itself. Could the creator himself formally terminate his throne, his creatorship over the course of time? Could the creator himself have had antecedent before him, he himself, praise and blessing be upon him, O creator, one or some other throne creatorship before himself as well? No resolution to this question from the other human substances will be at all tolerated right now. August 27, 2013. 8/27, 2013. 6. The antecedent propositions could not themselves be heresy? Benevolence, mercilessness to the self-substance, O creator. 8/27, 2013. 7. Father, mother, son, daughter. Formal cause, efficient cause, material cause, final cause. Air, water, fire, earth, cerebral system, cardiovascular system, muscular system. And this specific system includes the reproductive system. The reproductive system itself is not attributable to the efficient cause category or to the mother. Digestive system, head, torso, heart, water, blood, extremity. This term extremity includes the reproductive system. Then feet. How does this attribute to the order of the four seasons themselves? Yod He Waw He, Yod He Waw He. How could I have been so wrong, gone so astray, led so away for so long in time's duration on this? Classical Greca as attributable to formal cause, classical Rome to material cause, Middle Ages Christendom to efficient cause, Protestant Europe to final cause, history itself as temptation undesirable to affirm of it, not to go astray into it. Air as formal cause, yes, air. Water as efficient cause, yes. Somehow, some way, The efficient cause category is superior, primarily ordered to the material cause category, to fire, sun, east, and so forth. Earth as final cause still, yes. Air as north, water as west, fire as east, earth as south, still, yes. Father, mother, son, daughter. Air, water, fire, earth. Yod, he, wow, he. Is my understanding of this knowledge ultimately soundly affirmative of its validity? 8:27, 20-13, 8. Somehow, someway, my understanding of this knowledge, of the earlier antecedent assertion, air, water, fire, earth, north, west, east, south, father, mother, son, daughter, is or must be ultimately unsoundly affirmative of its validity. I was or must have been wrong on this earlier assertion. No. Formal cause, material cause, efficient cause, final cause, and so forth, so on and so forth, until the end. Though the mother, the water, the efficient cause category will never be cursed or despised. The reproductive system predicates to the efficient cause category. The cardiovascular system is subordinated to the reproductive system, though it, the cardiovascular system, predicates to the efficient cause category itself additionally so. 8:28, 20-13. Somehow, someway, years beforehand, the permissible and ordered system were to have been at all formalized. The Creator had predicated the generations a part of the self-substance material cause family. Firstborn, Adam, and thirdborn, condemned, formal cause and material cause, to the threshold and domain of the father archetype, and he had predicated the generations a part of the self-substance material cause family. Secondborn, Neil, and fourthborn, condemned, efficient cause and final cause, to the threshold and domain of the mother archetype. The divisibility and the divide between the creator affirmativeness, formal cause and material cause, Adam and condemned, male metaphysique, creator affirmative metaphysique, to the threshold and domain of the father archetype, and the creator negators, the creator negativeness, efficient cause and final cause, Neil and condemned, female metaphysique, creator negative metaphysique, to the threshold and domain of the mother archetype, was years beforehand to have been already formalized. By the knowledge and the volition of the Creator, praise and blessing be upon him. I was struck with extreme astonishment at the recognition of this experience. Oh, incredible, incomprehensible, complicated, grandiosity, greatness, and genius that you are, Creator. How could you have known this, to have known to do this, to aid and to assist me, to support me with this, with the understanding and confirmation of this forever doubtful to self-substance permissible and ordered system all along? Oh, limitless, unsurpassable genius that you are, Creator. Eight 28 20-13. Jesus Christus Illuser. The essence of this video, Jesus Christus Illuser, very strongly represents essentially everything attributable to the knowledge, recognition, and so forth of this life experience. Again, Kinski represents an almost formal cause actualized derivation of the concealed self archetype, though at the same time Kinski represents the wrath of God himself. Indeed, he is in absolute confrontedness and conflicts with all of his many countless betrayed and abandoned creations during the essence of this video. When he is mentioning the term abstraction, Jesus Christus, he will mention this term abstraction with illegitimacy and departure from it, and with misunderstanding and misfortunateness from it, and so forth. And the traitorous and heretical crowd is forever pointing this out to him as desirable not to affirm of this, for he is the wrath of God indeed. Christianity is heresy to the wrath of God. The righteous truthhood is only desirable to affirm, and so on and so forth. Incomprehensible language, speech, perfect speaker, relentless, merciless, tireless, foaming at the mouth, tears in his eyes, without pretend. I'm not an actor. This is pure monumentale Kinski, indeed. 8:28 20-13 2. The Creator himself manifests. He is human. He is fatherly. He is gigantic. He is ageless. He is long-bearded with greyness of color, and long-haired with greyness of color. He is robed with greyness and whiteness of color. He is loosely and wildly robed. He is holding to his own right shoulder, carrying on his own right shoulder his one and only son, infantile baby of age, his one and only son, essentially nude, and the back of his head, the back of his form can only be seen of him. The creator is exceedingly jealous and protective of his one and only son, absolutely so. The creator's countenance is facing over to the opposite side from his one and only son. He himself is exceedingly angry and wrathful, and he is pacing wildly, and he and his one and only son are the only forms imaginable and conceivable a part of this manifestation. The rest of this about him and his one and only son is complete and total darkness, obscurity, blackness, negativity, and so forth. The creator is without a spouse. There's no wife of his, or no mother of his one and only son. The creator has created his son with his bare hands. The son is prone to be violently grasped and hurt and disturbed by the anger and the wrathfulness of the creator. The darkness, obscurity, blackness, negativity, and so forth surrounding the creator and his one and only son is the creator's own mind. The creator is exceedingly angry and wrathful against his own mind, against his darkness, obscurity, blackness, negativity, and so forth surrounding the creator and his one and only son. August 28th, 2013. Eighth 30, 2013. Little boy blue, little boy green, 7. Ellipse. August 30, 2013. Therefore, 8:30, 2013. Little boy blue, little boy green, 7. Daytime, carelessness, oblivious, a part of the environmental atmosphere. Subject is watching some television, a part of the living room, together with the boys. Though mad and hostile sentiments, a part of the subject, are still strongly identifiable to his substance. Suddenly then, subject grasps remote control object in order to change the channel to some other television station. Subject then swings the remote control object lightly and rapidly from resting on his lap into a most perfectly steadfast and immovably fixated linear position. The boys then chirp to themselves, "Hey, I like," and then, "Hey, I like." Then the extreme, violently stagnated and fixated energy or soul physique, a part of the subject's right arm and hand, and a remote control object, and suddenly and immediately swing over and rush over to the boys themselves at an alarmingly rapid-paced, wave-like flourish. The boys then scream at the top of their lungs at the immovable and supernatural intensity of the subject. Then again, it is complete and absolute madness. The subject then returns his remote control object back into his lab with perfectly acted upon, backward traced reactivity. Daytime, afternoon, hotness, a part of the weather, extreme irritability, frustration, so forth, a part of the environmental atmosphere. Subject is laying down on his bed, attempting to nap, though he is failing miserably to do so. He is coughing violently, and with extreme irritability and frustration to himself. Then suddenly, as the subject thinks to himself, just before another violent cough movement, for the last and final time, "Get yourself out of me." Then immediately subsequent to this specific incident, a bird from out of the door has just flown up to nearby the window of the subject, is heard of or sensed the subject having thought this aforementioned abstraction to himself. Immediately the bird is interested in the intense activity of the subject. He is chirping to himself, and waiting for the subject, as though the subject himself were coughing so violently, with such extreme irritability and frustration, that within any moment of time's duration the subjects were ready and prepared to cough up either or both his heart itself, or if not then, together with this, both of his lungs, a part of himself as well. The subject then coughs violently again, extreme intensity remains a fixated a part of the atmosphere. That at last is the most extreme and violently that at last as though the most extreme and violently manifested coughing noises resound and terminate within the atmosphere. The subject is at last emptying himself of his troublesome or bothersome phlegm or lung epidemic that was forever plaguing himself with the uttermost dire torment and affliction. Then, immediately subsequent to this interesting activity, to the bird outside of the window, the subject then shifts himself in his bed, with characteristic accidental and mistaken irresolute activity, fixated a part of the subject's energy or soul physique. subject subject then appears mistakenly to the bird outside of the window, just sat up straightly and perfectly so on his bed, though ultimately he has flipped himself over on his bed from one side to another, but then the straight awake and fixated energy of part of the subject remains irresolute. Then, as though recognizable and understandable to the bird that the subject has solemnly and formally entered up to and come up to onto some kind of podium, or pedestal, or platform, or rostrum, as though identifiable to some great imperial leader standing up on his podium, or so forth, ready and prepared to deliver some kind of speech, likely in relativity to explanation or narration to this troublesome and bothersome coughing activity of his, to an immense and tremendous crowd that are all ears open to him before him, to the world itself all ears opened and listening to him before him. Subject is standing there, absent-mindedly and devoid of understanding, blinking thoughtlessly. Time is going by. The crowd before him remains still, all ears open to him and listening before him. The subject in actual physical threshold suddenly removes himself from this immovable and inflexibly fixated bed positioning, as though to the bird the subject had just then removed himself from this speech pedestal and returned himself back into darkness, obscurity, and negativity, and so forth, without any reasoning at all for this activity having just taken occurrence. The subject in the actual physical threshold is now sitting straight up on his bed. He is ready to get up from his bed and onto his feet, though he is evidently lazy and slothful, in order to cause a specific activity of his into the present manifestation. He looks over to the side of his bed, absent-mindedly and dumbly of understanding. His mouth is open and is hanging down emptily of thought. He remains fixated apart of this activity. Then suddenly, as though the characteristic heavy and intense coughing frustrations of his have returned, the subject at last empties himself of his troublesome, bothersome phlegm or lung epidemic, as though he has at last vomited all of his stomach contents all over the threshold of his room, as though the subject is evidently and at last sustaining himself and living himself without any heart or cardiovascular system, without any lungs or respiratory system at all whatsoever. Somehow, some way, the subject remains perfectly sustainable of himself and perfectly alive within these specific information vitally important, the fundamental organs and systems that were beforehand altogether necessary and elemental to the life sustainability and life preservation of the subject himself. Hey, I like. He's immortal. He's immortal and imperishable. Then again, this is complete and absolute madness. Complete and absolute madness. August 30, 2013. Eight 31, 2013. Little boy blue, little boy green. 8. Lips. August 31, 2013. 9/1/2013. Well, I'm quite alright tonight, as earlier my day today, too. I'm peaceful and restful and gentle. Earlier today, August 31. Oh, lovely. This date itself, I have discovered over the course of years a significant meaningfulness attributable to this date when it takes its occurrence to me. Earlier today, yesterday, well, it seems I must make music on this date for one thing, significant, important, landmark music. I was able to do so earlier on this date during this year. Thankfully, I was able to do so. You have been making music. Wonderful. The roommates a part of the household were out of the house all day on this date this year. Good. I understood and recognized that somehow, some way, they knew that they must leave me to myself on this date, if in order to create beautiful music for this special day. Fearsome to behold the understanding of this. It is. The recognition of them knowing my intentions, my own understanding apart the specific dates. Strange. Without them actually physically knowing this. Indeed. Though supernaturally so, they do know this. Well, enough of this. I was able to record 4 pieces on film. Are you pleased with the result? Are you pleased with the result? The keyboard. I was pleased with only 1 piece. The final piece. The 4th piece. So strange how this was working. The first 3 pieces, no, the creator did not wish for these to be published. This would be too much. On this date, understood. The title of the pieces themselves was to be either or both Please Be at Peace, Creator, and then Oh, Please Be Gentle with Me, Creator, and the title changed to merely Peace and Gentleness Be Upon You, Creator, with the term Creator at the beginning of the title. Then I left the pieces merely Peace and Gentleness Be Upon You. It had removed the creator's name from the title, if in order to calm him further with me. The essence of this music is indeed played religiously and metaphysically, as music itself should altogether be done so. It sounds wonderful, if in order to put him at peace, and for him to be gentle to his human substances. The music category itself should have no other purpose than abstractions such as this aforementioned. I understand that the 4th piece indeed had put him at peace, with a gentleness to me. I was listening to it in its final production form. Then the creator, he manifested himself to me in the darkness of the evening as some fog-like cloud form. Amazing, as though he was saying to me, I'm sorry, I apologize, please forgive me for everything. And at precisely 8:31 in the evening, the final production of the piece was saved to my computer, and it was ready to be published, which afterward indeed this was to have been done so successfully. Extraordinary, Adam. Then minutes of communion with him had occurred together with me. Just an amazing experience. Peacefulness, restfulness, and gentleness. There was only he and I that were here at this place. So healing. He was experimenting, testing with me during then. But precisely what I do with myself were I to have my own place, my own property, my own household. Yes, I sense that I behaved myself affirmatively and according to his liking of me. The Garden of Eden wilderness roommates had come back afterward. That must have been a wonderful thing. Though I was at ease and peace. Oh yes, it was. I was able to at last just live, without the other human substances a part of the household. Have you spoken with Shannon, darling? Yes, indeed. I've indeed spoken to her on the phone yesterday, Frig's Day. Oh, good. Oh, good. She was so excited to hear from me. Ah, very loud surprise was emitted from her when she heard from me. Happily, joyfully so. She likes you. We had spoken to each other very much about during that first conversation, arranging for a get together, a visit with each other sometime soon. Good, that's good. I suggested that during this weekend itself, were she available to do so then? Yes, can she? Though she was unavailable during that, unfortunately. Though she mentions that during the weekend would be best, so I understand that during possibly the next weekend. Oh, I'm so pleased. We'll visit with each other then, to spend a night there with her. He can pour out her heart to her, and then with us, who is Adam Regis, and then Adam Regis, who's Ask. So fun as she mentions he will visit with us and talk over your future. I'm so pleased to hear about that. Excellent. I pour my heart out to her. Oh yes, indeed. Over my future, talk about it with her. She will be helpful and loving. All her help and suggestions. Oh yes, you understand. I have every confidence. The household here that this will happen. No, I cannot remain here. It is understandable to everybody. Dreadful people. No, you cannot. Every confidence. Yes, oh, dreadful people, indeed. You need peace and understanding from a good woman. From a good woman, oh yes. As you had said earlier, a kind older woman, living with her, if only that itself were obtainable. Oh, the peace that would be. September 1, 2013. Footnote, Shannon, who is Embla, final. In the Norse pantheon, named title appellation. In the Norse pantheon, in Norse mythology, pantheon, name, title, appellation, way, finally so, ultimate so, true enough, system, final, final, kaput, final, true enough, final, enough, system, Darla who's Sigyn. In the Norse pantheon mythology, name, title, appellation, finally so, ultimate so, final, kaput, true enough, system, final, enough, system, omen. Nine, 1, 2013, 2. I'm alright. I could be far better, however. Of course, not much of an eventful day it was. Today was another calm and restful day to me for the most part. Well, it is better to have nothing bad happen in a day. It is better were it so, yes. So, no news is good news. There are the Garden of Endless Wilderness. The Garden of Eden Wilderness roommates here at the place. Of course, noisiness is unparalleled as is typical of them. Cursedness against them, against the Western world almost in its entirety at this point in history's time. The Westerners are sodomites, plain and simple. They are degenerate, zeroed out deadites. I'll leave them all behind me. You can in time. The household were obtained, it would be a sanctuary against them, away from them. Hopefully, if you can see Embla and get help finding the right place, you may settle away from all the garbage. It will be a holy dwelling. Oh yes, Embla will help with me. I will contact her over this week. I'm aiming for next weekend to visit with her. I always felt that you would have been happy as a priest, a holy father, living amongst good and intellectual brothers. Get rid of all the Christians, indeed, enough of them. But it may be that you would crave the company of women too much. Oh, get rid of Christians? Then I'm mistaken. But it may be that you would crave the company of women too much. Oh, get rid of the Christians? Then I'm mistaken. That might be the case, it might not be so. Craving for women? No. Yes, darling, mistaken. I do not any further affirm of Christianity. I recognize and comprehend its principles and so forth as indeed heresy from the Old Testament. Creator affirmativeness is in diametrical opposition to the Christians. The Christians will assert propositions one after another, representing themselves as creator negators. Against the truthhood, every last principle of theirs, it is in opposition to the identification of the creator. Any passage of aphorism or proverb selected from the New Testament will lead ever further to the provenness and conclusion of this behavior or universal negative understanding of theirs. The Western world is full of them, everywhere. I stand in absolute diametrical opposition to them. They hate the Father. They hate the Creator. It is seen and observed everywhere from them. They affirm matriarchal nonsense, as though the Creator was some feminine goddess. Creatus, they would call it. They affirm the female metaphysique over the masculine generation and so forth, as though the Creator affirmed, ranked in superiority, the female metaphysique over the male identity and so forth. Such is not at all to have been the case. The Creator clearly despises essentially the female generation altogether. They are negatives to him. They are beautiful to him. They are most beautiful to him. When they overcome their enslavement to menstruation, the qualities of their own that manifest and rise practical to the essence of menstruation, the greatest enumeration of them do not do this against themselves here. Why did he create them if he despises them? Therefore he has much praise of beautiful woman, and of which the woman herself is triumphant against those aforementioned negative qualities. Rather, why does he despise them if he created them? There is reasoning for it. It sounds very Islamic. Of course there is. Temptation, experimentation, contest, trial, and affliction. Islamic, perhaps much of these abstractions are. Nevertheless, it does not matter whether Islamic or not. I do not align with those Christian principles. Simple, that is. Fair enough. Beyond alignment with it rests principles essential to Islam, to more orthodox Judaism, to truthhood. Yes, I'm sorry. They drive me to madness, these Christians and so forth. Yes, all religion drives me mad. I was affirming of their religion earlier, you know of this. Yes, you were. Betrayal and abandonment from them. Well, one day you will find what is right for you. Were all religion to drive you mad? No, not all religion drives me mad. I may have already done so, found what is right, though then were it affirmed altogether. You are obviously walking some kind of path that is leading you somewhere. Then I'm left desolated and solitary completely. I understand it. Yes, the question is where, but all will be revealed, no doubt, in time. But when? I look far too similar to Jesus of Nazareth. How much suffering do you have? How much suffering do you have to go through? At the same time, I see myself a part of imagery and contemplate myself, meditate on its image. Then I see the Creator himself manifest in these images of me. I know that I am not one of them, the others, at all whatsoever. I know that I am at the center of this life experience. Dialectic is so immediately changing, according to my own movements and activity. It's very subtle, though I'm able to pick up on this. There's indirect reference from external material substances forever completely in relativity to me, to my own activity and movement and so forth. Every last movement from me, were there sensible dialectic ensuing around me, the external material reacted is an indirect, though ultimate and complete reactivity to me, to my own movement and activity and so forth. This is confirmed a part of me, evidently, permanently. It is exceedingly fearsome to know of this. You yourself, a part of this. I know that there is constant fighting within you, though you're protagonistic to me always you are. You're present on my own side of the battlefield. Yes, I am always present. Hundreds of millions, if not then billions of antagonists otherwise. Subconscious reflections they are of mine. A terrible number to be against. Negate the darkness, and the darkness tries ever further to completely negate me, the light that I am here. Well, I hope I bring you light in some way. You're full of light to me. Every last one of them, further numbers and numbers of them classifying themselves into that darkness against me. You stand alone, high up. I'm full of light to you indeed. I stand alone, oh yes. Yes, you do.